Have a story to tell? I believe you. Ghost, cryptids, the unknown. Let's talk about it. This is My GhostCast. Welcome back to the next episode of My GhostCast with your host, Threz. And special guest is Ghost Chino is back in the mix with us. Well, in this episode, Ghost Chino and we interview a gentleman by the name of Bryan Garner, also known as Frater Ashen Chassan. He's going to reveal and educate us on what traditional magicians do. This is a pretty badass episode, so stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back to My GhostCast. Your host, Threz Gonzalez. Also got my brother back, and finally in an episode, Ghost Chino.
Ghost Chino, making my comeback.
So we're here to interview an extremely interesting person I met in Colorado, Bryan Garner. Welcome, Bryan, to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Bryan has a very interesting background. I've been starting to follow him, and now I'm like, a little quick thing about how I met Bryan. So I met Bryan at a seminar in Colorado, and I was there with one of my students, and we're chilling out, and a friend, and we got there early. I think it was between lunchtime, and everybody was still gone. And this guy walks in, and my spidey sense is like, whoa, somebody interesting just walked in. And it wasn't a cocky or an evil feeling, you know. It wasn't like, oh my God, here comes this terrorist or this evil guy. It was a confidence, but he'd had a presence. And this is Bryan. This is this guy. I was like, I remember telling Justin, because it was Justin that was with me, and he was like, there's something really interesting about this guy. And he and I just, Bryan, I just went, hey, how you doing? And that's it. And I was like, all right, I don't know who this guy is, but he's got an interesting feel to him. Oh, yeah, that's Bryan.
Well, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. For sure.
Yeah. So Bryan's going to tell us a little bit about himself and kind of do a little intro. Same thing with Ghost Chino. Is going to do a little reminder about himself. Actually, we'll go with Ghost Chino real quick. Ghost Chino, remind everybody about who you are real quick.
Probably a little reminder and just revealing a little bit more about myself, especially just to give Bryan a little backstory about me so that perhaps we can relate a little bit better with each other's experiences. I was actually born into this type of world, the paranormal world, because my dad was a practitioner of sorts in the Eastern esoterica and magic. So I was kind of born into that, but I wasn't around him as much as I wanted to be. So my training was definitely incomplete. He passed away several years ago. His death anniversary is actually tomorrow. So we were involved. He was involved heavily in a lot of stuff from his young age through his travels in Asia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, and things like that. So he was involved in things like geomancy, astrology, divination, ceremonial magic, exorcisms, invocation and evocations, things like that. So yeah, definitely excited to have Bryan on, and maybe we could talk about some really interesting stuff. Ghost Chino?
All right, Bryan, bring it on.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Basically, my background in esotericism and such is I go by the magical pseudonym Frater Ashen Chassan. I'm a published author. I also do workshops and lectures. I've been to England and done things around the world to speak about magic and the practice thereof, not just the scholarly background, but I have a lot of background and study within Western esotericism and the Hermetic path, as well as what's been coined Solomonic magic, which is kind of my specialty, and I'll go into that in a little bit. But I've been practicing traditional grimoire magic, grimoires, or the classical medieval through the period, basically through the 14th through the 16th, sometimes the early 17th century books and texts of magic and spirit conjuration in specific. But there's also other magical recipes and some people will call them spells and such, but experiments and techniques. And I found that I had a knack for them. So I began practicing those and also recording my findings. And since then, I've been on quite a few podcasts. And like I said, I've done workshops, and I have 5 different published works on the subject that are available. I also make talismans and amulets and magical paraphernalia, such as wands and robes and all kinds of things for other practicing magicians. And it's kind of an ongoing thing that I do in my life. It's kind of a big vocation. But basically my interest in magic stemmed from when I was very young, and my family having a lot of paranormal experiences. Things would happen in the house that everybody would see and experience. It especially terrified my parents a lot, as well as us, but I was kind of more curious. And even though we had religious background, kind of Protestant, Methodist, a lot of the ministers didn't have direct answers of what to do when certain things would happen. And regardless of, or prayer and different things that we would do, a lot of these happenings would still go on. So I began to be interested in esotericism and basically technologies about dealing with spirits and dealing with this kind of activities, and began reading some rudimentary books on magic. And when I tried a couple of things, I found that I had a knack for it. I was able to make things happen, and things would result as a part of my experiments and such. So I continued with my study. And it was in around 1999 that I became serious about reproducing the experiments exactly as they were written in certain books of magic, which is very difficult. A lot of the items and the discipline and the timing and everything is pretty strenuous. It's very particular. They're not easy items to make. It's not easy discipline, or the invocations are not easy to memorize, but I became dedicated to try to reproduce these to see what I could have happen. And I had some very incredible experiences at first by myself and going through things solo, which I wrote about and eventually published a book on. And then I worked with a very close friend that had a wonderful ability of seeing spiritual phenomenon as well. And we did several experiments together and recorded those down and published those findings as well. So dealing with spirits and magic, a lot of what's referred to as a paranormal is something that I do and I've done for a while. I do assist with various haunting phenomenons or other spiritual phenomenon, but rather than just doing investigation, even though I still do that to determine if something's really going on, there's a lot of fantasy, there's a lot of wishful thinking, there's a lot of misinterpretation about experiences, and that's definitely still the most common. But for the things that I find to be legitimate and everything, I'm able to help out with if it's something that's harmful or something that's bothering a person or family or a place. Besides magic, it's something that's tied to my spirituality. It's something that I take as a vocation and service in the clerical position that I'm in as well. So magic is very much a profession that I'm in as well, besides the other things that I do.
Wow, that's man, there's a whole bunch of things to open up on that. I'm like, okay, let's pick out one in particular. So I remember you having a friend that you went through on what you said they were a scryer or a scriber. What is that exactly?
Yeah, so scryer or scrying is the ability to perceive spirits or spiritual phenomenon, usually while looking into an apparatus or an oculus of some sort. Historically, the medium for a scryer has been several different things. There's ancient manuscripts of even putting oil on a thumbnail and being able to descry spirits. But traditionally, the crystal ball, the black mirror, or mirrors for reflective or semi-reflective surfaces, bowls of water, these type of things were used to perceive spirits and to be able to scry. It takes an ability. It's something that I worked on for very long to be able to do, even though I would spontaneously see things and had seen things as a child into my teens. Consciously and purposefully calling up a spirit or seeing a spirit and being lucid enough for communication is definitely something that takes practice. Some people are more natural at it than others. And although I can do that, my friend, where we shared several different spiritual experiences and paths, he became my scryer, where I could act as the magician or the magus and do the invocations and light the incense and do all the process, while he was able to passively perceive the spirit and also report back everything that he saw, as well as what the spirit from the questions that I had.
I see. So that's kind of like, for example, there's certain movies where they'll have like a witch, right, who will throw bones in something and spit in it and move it around. Is that kind of that?
That would be a divination or oracle, being able to read bones and like tarot cards or runes or these type of things would be more kind of in like geomancy and other things, or ability to divine or to receive messages that way. It's typically not the same as scrying, whereas you're perceiving and seeing and hearing a spirit directly basically in real time, and that's in the magical community, that's usually what's being referred to.
Awesome, thanks for clearing that up. D?
Yes.
You got any questions on that area?
No, that was a great intro.
I know. I'm all like, that's pretty dang cool. All right, guys, we're going to be right back with a little more information. We'll be back shortly. Hold on to your seats.